I want to talk about something I keep seeing in the market right now. For the first time in a long time, buyers have real leverage. And some buyers are continuing to blow it. And it's not because they're doing something obviously wrong. Guelph is formally in a full buyer's market. I say formally because there are still pockets that are actually seller heavy. And the same goes for pockets in the Greater Toronto Area and Waterloo Region. Buyers have leverage. So how are you blowing it exactly? It's because buyers markets come with their own traps, and they're really not that obvious. If you've spent the last 2 or 3 years watching prices go down from the sidelines, because let's be honest, the Greater Toronto Area and Guelph have been quite competitive leading up to these last few years, the habits that you built for that competitive market, they're not going to work here. So today I want to walk you through the top 5 mistakes I see buyers making in today's market, a buyer's market, because I have watched people either lose money, lose time, lose confidence, lose opportunities in a market that's supposed to work for them. If you've been actively looking or have been on the fence and you're kind of ready to come into the market, then stay tuned. This video is exactly for you. Mistake number 1, waiting for prices to fall even further. You've been watching prices for 2 years. They've come down from the April 2022 highs that we experienced, and your brain does this thing. Trust me, but my brain does it too. What if I wait just a little bit longer? It's going to come down even more. We've all done it. And here's the problem with that logic that I've had to learn for myself. In Guelph right now, the median price is approximately $740,000. That's down less than 0.25% from this time last year. So what exactly has changed then in this market? Are conditions? What has changed? Negotiations? What has changed? Seller mindset? What has changed? Time on market? But the price itself, that price has only come down 0.25%, so it's not crashing. And I want to tell you that that's not unusual. In most markets, when activity slows down, it's not that the prices come tumbling down right after. It's the terms. Sellers begin to accept conditions they maybe never would have opened their mind to a year before. Negotiations truly become like this document. The offer becomes this live document, right? Like it's living, breathing. It's full of everybody's hopes and dreams, and it's how do I negotiate the best terms? And really, it's how do I negotiate the best terms so that both feel heard, seen, satisfied. And it's to be noted that the price may move ever so slightly, but the terms and conditions of that offer hold a true weight. And so this is a conversation that I'm having. And truly, if I've been working with clients, they already are seeing the patterns because that's what we do. We watch for patterns in the market over a long period of time. And it's not the prices that are crashing. It is, hey, how is this going to work for you? Because we already know you're qualified for that certain price point. And that conversation is different, right? In most markets, the correction has already happened. Most of it was in 2022, 2023. And right now, I'd say we're in kind of like a plateau, a soft plateau. And so I say this, if you're waiting for prices to crash like over 20%, I want you to ask yourself, what evidence do you have for that right now? That's coming. And what is the cost of being wrong? Because I know we've touched on this on previous videos, the cost of waiting is not just time. It's the rate environment, the competition that could return, and this simple, most basic realization that every month you're waiting is just the month that you're settling for something else because you are curious about entering the housing market. So while I fully support waiting for the right reasons and making sure affordability, your monthly payment makes sense for you, all of that still remains true. This is not a, hey, act now, rush. This is not that. I do want you to make sure that you're waiting for the right reasons and their data back. Moving on, mistake number 2, lowballing and losing the house. Okay, this one is tricky because I understand why it happens. You hear buyer's market and your brain goes, offer below asking, right? The sellers must be desperate. I'm going to go in low. Or I'm going to start super low, and if they really want to engage with me, they'll counter my offer. I've heard it all. I've heard it numerous times. And this is an active conversation that I'm having, and it's an important one. It's one that I encourage. And even more confusing is where sometimes that strategy actually works. And that just adds to the confusion overall. But let me talk about this mistake because it actually causes people to lose out on homes that are otherwise perfect for them and their circumstance. The sales to list ratio in Guelph, for example, is sitting at 97%. Okay, so most homes are selling for a 3% discount, how I like to say it. So if you are trying to present an offer that is somehow 20% under ask or 10% under ask, what is the data that supports that? And that is the difference. There is a difference between a data-backed offer and simply a lowball because a number is something that you like. I say this with respect. I say this knowing that that is, maybe a tactic or a strategy that was ingrained from, some inherited assumption somewhere along your family or just what you've read in the media. However, if you are trying to take advantage of today's market, and the opportunities that exist, and there is something that comes up, it's in your price point, it's in your monthly affordability, it's in the right school zone, it's in all of the things that you can actually start envisioning for your future, and you want the home, simply pulling a number because it feels good with no real data backing is going to actually hurt you in trying to go after this house. You might even lose credibility along the way. A data-backed offer, for example, says, hey, these are the comparable sales in the neighborhood. The home has been sitting for X number of days, and this is what I'm prepared to offer, knowing all of these factors. Now, that's a real conversation. A lowball offer says, I'm going to try my best at an 85 or 80% of ask and see if these sellers are going to bite. Do you see the difference? Sellers in this market are not panicking. Okay. And yes, will you maybe find an outlier? Maybe there's a seller out there that is panicking. Sure, you might. However, if you're working with a professional and you are actively looking to get into home ownership, then have the due diligence done. Get your data points, present a strong offer, start having a real conversation that makes sense. Okay, negotiation doesn't mean that only you win. Negotiation very much means that both parties come to the table and terms that they can both accept. So don't come to the table with an offer that's going to insult a seller. Come to the table with an offer where you can be taken seriously. The buyers who are winning right now are coming to the table and using their leverage, and they're not being aggressive. Like, aggression is not a winning tactic. Negotiation and conversation, not confrontation. Moving on to mistake number 3, skipping conditions out of habit. I'm really not surprised by this. I do see it. It's a conversation that I've had. And more often than not, before we make it to the offer paperwork, this is a big part of the conversation. For 2 or 3 years, conditions were just gone. People made really fast decisions on homes that they saw within 15 minutes. Walking into a property within 15 minutes of your showing, knowing that you have to present an offer, knowing that it's going to go into multiple offers, and you can't even have any conditions at the end of the day, and you have to buy it just right then and there in that competitive environment. Are you telling me you're making the best decision in that moment? Sometimes it has worked if everyone's done their homework and there's data and there's pricing and somehow it has been maintained. And yes, regardless of what is disclosed, real estate does have risk involved. I get that. However, smart buyers today have the gift of time. You have the gift of conditions. It's not even a gift. It should be mandatory, I feel. Conditions make informed buyers. Conditions help you. It actually helps everybody, including the sellers, I feel, because everyone feels they're making a smart decision without the pressure. And that's what this market gives you. It gives you the ability to have conditions, so use it. I'm not saying that every home and every segment of the market is going to allow you to put all of your conditions that only serve you, okay? For instance, let me give you an example. A lovely client of mine, beautiful couple, we've been working for a few years. They ended up finding, the homes that they want in a family-friendly, awesome school district, private community, like all of those things where homes don't really come up, and the ones that do come up maybe aren't the right layout for them. So when you find the right layout in the right school district with all of the other factors and parameters that they want, we have to jump within the same day and write an offer. And sometimes that means we have to be choosy about the conditions that we go in with. But when we're looking to offload any condition off an offer, it is not just, hey, let's just get it. Let's just do it because this is how you're going to win the house. No, it is, we have known what your affordability has been for the last 2 years. We have been up to date with your mortgage broker and they've been up to date with their lender to make sure, hey, this could still work. Everyone is up to date on that. And then knowing the condition of the home getting those reports, looking at, hey, what has been updated, having that rapport and conversation with the listing agent, all of that helps to make a much more confident and well thought out offer. So there will be times in certain segments of the market where you feel you can't use all of your conditions. More often than not, there are pockets in this market that allow you to, but there is still a way to get protection in this market, in a hot market, in a neighborhood where you can still have a few of your conditions held. Trust me, you can. And of course, the most popular ones are financing and home inspection. More often than not, I'm also seeing, if there's a pool on the property, you can have a seller opens the pool condition at their own cost, making sure all components are in good working order. There's so many different ones. And another hot one is if you currently own a property and you're looking to include that sale of purchaser's property condition, where you say, I'll buy your house if I can offload mine within this time frame. That is a tricky one in certain segments. However, still one that I do see being used. So don't just automatically think you can't have any conditions, okay? I'm just addressing it because these are conversations I've had. Conditions are very much a normal and required, I feel, part of this real estate process. Okay, moving on to mistake number 4, shopping in the wrong price range in this market. And don't pretend, we've all fallen victim to this sometimes, okay? And it is a little more nuanced. Not all price ranges in this market are behaving in the same way. If you're shopping in a segment of the market where buyer leverage is lower, your experience is going to feel very different than what I'm about to describe. The $550,000 to $750,000 mark in Guelph right now is where most of the action is. Sales nearly doubled year over year in that segment, in that price range. So you might find that you're actually going into competition in that price range. Okay, that means there's multiple offers. And more so if it's a property or a product type that's more sought out in that price range. The $750,000 to $900,000 mark is kind of where buyer leverage is highest right now. Sales are down 9% in that range. So more homes are sitting, sellers are feeling a little more motivated. And again, this is going to come down to the actual property type. What does the property have? We're not just looking at the layout and the interiors, we're also looking at the lot, the location, the school zone, the amenities, the transit, all of that comes into play. Condos right across the board are where much of this softness in the market really exists. Condo sales dropped 37% in Guelph, and if you're looking for a condo, please know that the average days for a condo to sell in Guelph is sitting at about 45 days. So if you're tracking and wanting to get into home ownership and it allows for a condo, then you have time to make that decision, so use it wisely. So that's what I mean about the nuance of this, hey, shopping out of your price range. You need to know your range so that you can target it specifically, not just, look at the overall market. Because the buyer's market is going to feel quite different depending on these different price ranges. And mistake number 5, if you've been here for a little bit of time, you know I'm going to go here. Letting fear make the decision. Let's look at this. Because after everything, the conditions, the data, the leverage, strategy, I've watched buyers who have all of the right information right in front of them still not move. And it almost always comes back to fear. Fear of buying in the wrong time, fear of prices crashing, fear of paying too much, fear of commitment, fear of making a mistake that you can't undo. I get it. I really do. A home is probably the largest financial decision you're going to make. The stakes feel enormous. And so naturally, fear makes sense. But what I've also seen is I've seen people take 2 years waiting to find the perfect moment. And the cost of waiting, whether it's rent, whether it's loss in terms of equity, whether it's just even the mental load, it's up in ways that you really didn't calculate along the way. So I just want to say, waiting also has a price. It's just not as visible. I work with a lot of buyers who've been watching the market for a long time, and the ones who struggle most aren't the ones who don't have enough information. They're the ones who actually have too much information and not enough clarity on what they actually want. A really good home decision is not about finding the perfect moment in the market. I truly believe it's about finding the perfect home for the person that you are becoming. And then making a clear-eyed, well-informed move. Fear of the market is real. There's no doubt about it. But fear of the wrong thing at the wrong time is also going to cost you. The market that we're in right now is actually giving buyers a lot of breathing room. And so I encourage you to use that to your advantage. Use your conditions, take your inspection, see what kind of terms make you feel protected, but also will motivate the seller, right? It's a little bit of give and take, no doubt about that. I'm Varsha, and if you've been sitting on the sidelines for a while and you just need some data to help you maybe take the next move, then click the link below in my description. Let's schedule a little coffee chat and let's get you moving, because I help families just like you navigate and make data-backed real estate decisions in the Greater Toronto Area and Guelph.